Rabbi Mordechai here. It's a great day. It's Tu B'Av. It's a very powerful energy where, the sages teach that the sun and the moon is the closest together than it will be throughout the entire year. It's a time of love. It's a time of connection on a soul level. It's also coming after the 9th of Av. It's a tremendous day to do Brachat Hamazon. As you know, the fourth bracha, Hatova Meitiv, is directly connected to this day today. For my family, this is the day that actually me and my wife, we had our engagement party on this day here in Jerusalem, like 3 years ago. And it's a very big time, right? But I want to talk about something that's really important, and it's based around a lot of the classes, a lot of the teachings, a lot of the conversations that's happening, with myself in private and public, with, all types of people, and we're at a pinnacle moment, in human history where tremendous changes can be made, right? We're more connected than we've ever been before through social technology. We are being propelled to push ourselves to a higher level of understanding of who we are because of things like AI technology and robot technology and things like global outsourcing that are basically, in essence, removing the need for us to live in a very docile state, which we have for literally thousands of years, right? Where we, are working and physical labor is a part of, our existence, right? When we go back to the beginning of creation, one of the curses that Adam and Chava both received from their disconnection from Hashem, from eating from the Eitz Hadas, instead of from the Eitz HaChaim, was to do labor, right? That they would have to plow the earth, that they would have to work the earth in order to receive sustenance. But before that, that wasn't the case. Before that, it was all consciousness. The sages teach whatever Adam thought of, he manifests. Adam became lonely, he woke up and a wife was there. You know what I mean? So this idea of thought and thought creating reality it looks like this is what we're being pushed to, right? We're being pushed to this reality. Rabbi Nachman says in Likutei Moharan, he teaches that in the end of days, there will be no more business, right? And he says all corporations, all Fortune 500 companies, everything Fortune 100, everything's going to be gone. Why? How could he say such a thing? Because the idea of business is the acceptance of a certain consciousness where there's a buyer and there's a seller. There's people on two different sides, right? This guy's selling, this guy's buying, right? This person is lacking, this person has, right? And so we all live our day-to-day lives on this basis, right? But this is the basis of economics, right? Global economics. So what Rabbi Nachman says, during the end of days, that there will be no business transactions, right? There won't be business transactions. Why? Because everyone's going to have one consciousness. Everyone's going to have one desire. And they're going to realize that the desire to sell and the desire to buy, the root of that is a connection to God. Let me explain it maybe a little bit like more concise. If you ask a person, whatever, you can have whatever you want, right? And so you talk to a person and say, you know what? If you go to a person and says, you know what, I have a pill that you can take, and this pill that you take will allow you to manifest whatever you want. Anything you can think of, whatever you want, boom, you can have it. So you ask a guy, maybe he's in college, maybe he's working every day, and he says, you know what? I want $1 trillion, right? I want $1 trillion. In fact, you know what? Sorry, I want $100 trillion, right? And he's like, wow, that's a lot of money, $100 trillion. Wow, amazing. So what would you do with that $1 trillion, that $100 trillion? He says, oh, I will buy this, I will buy that. I would remove hunger in the world. I would build shelters for everyone in the world. I would, assuming this guy is a holy guy, right? Or person, maybe it's a woman I'm talking, whatever. But the point is just saying this idea that I'm going to remove this, I'm going to do this, okay, fine. So after you remove hunger, after you buy the biggest mansion, after you pay off everyone's debts and everything you do, what would you have then? Then he's going to say, oh, well, if after I bought all these things and I did all these amazing things, I would feel this way. I would feel at peace. I would feel that, I would feel accomplished. I would feel secure. I would feel that I'm living my purpose. I would feel that, I would feel all these blessings in my life, right? Right? This is this is a hypothetical conversation, but we're trying to understand what Rabbi Nachman is teaching in Likutei Moharan. All of those things that we desire, are not physical, right? Now, he wanted the $1 trillion, right? That's physical. And then once he got the $1 trillion, he would do X, Y, Z things, like all this whole list of things. All those things are also physical. But the byproduct of all those physical things is what? Energy, emotions, right? Things that are not physical, right? Things that are not physical, right? So what we're saying is that all that non-physical energy that we desire from the $100 trillion and all the great works that we would do with that $1 trillion are all energy, right? And those energies are what? Directly connected to the Creator. All of those energies that we desire, love, connection, oneness, right? Tu b'av, connection, energy. We're not inheriting the sun and the moon today, right? What we're getting, right, is the energy from that, the energy of peace, the energy of completion, right? This is what we're getting from this energy of Tu b'av, right? So the whole context of the human desire is energy, right? That's what we all want. We want the energy, right? So if I went to that same person and said to them, or him, her, whoever, and said, instead of the $100 trillion, what do we bypass that and go directly in not even those energies that are a byproduct, but we just go to the purest source of that light? Would you rather do that? Right? Of course, she would say, yeah, because that's what we truly want. If they're really honest with themselves, they say, yeah, just give me the light. Just give me the light force of the Creator, right? In past conversations, we're still building off this Rabbi Nachman thing. In past conversations, we talked about these 7 dynamics that God created 3,000 years before Hashem says, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ha'aretz. Before God created the heavens and the earth, there were 7 things that the sages teach were created, right? We're not going to go so into detail in it, but the idea is to say Torah, Tshuva, the Gan Eden, Gehinnom, Kisi HaKavod, Beis HaMikdash, in the name of Mashiach. These things were all created. Now, the significance of this point is that all of these things that were created, later became physical. They were not physical at this time. We say Torah, when God created a bunch of books, in this unseen world. No, he didn't create books. These are the instructions of what the world was built on. Tshuva, there was no human beings. What do you mean tshuva? Gan Eden, Gehinnom, right? For who? There was none of these things. But as the world started to be created, these things, all these inanimate, all these non-physical entities became manifest, right? And you can say these 7 things are connected to Hesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut, right? We could say that as well, right? So this dynamic that the world was created with energy, right? That's the basis of creation. The basis of creation is energy. Then that energy later became manifest physically, right? So Rabbi Nachman is building up the point and saying, like, no, this is where the world started at. The world started with this concept of energy, right? And if we go a step further, even before that, right? The sages teach a concept of B'rith Hashem, which I'm going to have to talk about over and over again because it's so important, right? That Hashem, the entity that's beyond our imagination, that's beyond our logic, gives us a glimpse through the teachings of Kabbalah, a glimpse into the thought consciousness of this entity. And the sages teach way before these 7 things were created. Before that, God had a desire to reveal his benevolence. And the benevolence that it had was this, it was just this tremendous source of light, right? Like I come, you know, and I mean, I'm in Jerusalem right now, right? And there's so many things going on, and there's a lot of light, there's a lot of energy. But being able to share, to being able to be married, you know, being able to, you know, children and community and friends, all these dynamics that we have in order to share allows a person to receive this light and give it over. But if you didn't have any of those things, that's why the Gemara is so harsh on men that are not married, because when you're not able to share in a proper way, that light becomes blocked. It's not able to filter itself out. And when things get blocked, it becomes dark, right? So this whole idea that there's original, that the benevolence of the creator wanted to reveal itself. And so it created these souls. It created souls, right? And these souls were basically vessels that were receiving God's light endlessly. This is in the endless world. This is before anything was created. This is before the seven entities that later became manifest in creation came. This is the beginning of the beginning of the beginning of the whole conversation, right? And so in the beginning of that conversation, these vessels were receiving this light endlessly. But God created a mechanism within these entities where they also had a desire to be like the creator, right? And when you look at the whole Torah and you look at the whole experiences of the Torah, you will see that this principle is done over and over again, whether it's done in the right way or the wrong way. But regardless, is that the endless world was started with these souls receiving this light endlessly from the creator. And God put in a thought intelligence inside of these souls that they would want to be like the creator and not just receive for themselves, but receive for the basis of sharing, right? And so that idea is the basis. That idea is the basis of everything. Why? Because the thought intelligence that these original souls had to be like the creator came manifest when they felt some type of a lack, right? Some type of a lack was created, right? And so that lack that was created made these original souls restrict an aspect of the receiving of God's light. And that restriction is what the science call Big Bang, or they call it the Simpson, right? That's what they call it. And this restriction from this original light, this Big Bang created the physical world that we're in, right? Why is this important to know? And why is it important to say over and over again? Because if we can hone in on this idea, we can remember why we were created. We can remember that every one of us is holy. Every one of us has a purpose. Every one of us has a meaning. And if we don't understand that, we could fall into disparity. We could fall into laziness. We could fall into complacency. And we don't use the gifts and the talents that God gave us to ultimately be like the creator, to be a sharer, to be an endless sharer, to be an endless giver. This is the beauty of this concept. And so through this void that was created from these original souls, and the creator created this physical world that we live in. So the physical world that we live in has this mechanism of time, space, motion. It has, space, it has 7 days of creation. All these things were created to be able to allow eventually this soul that was in the endless world to come down into this world, or into this impure world that was created through its restriction in this endless reality. And in that space, that void, and that reality that was created was basically a playground for these souls to remove this aspect of what the sages teach is bread of shame, right? The bread of shame is this endless receiving, but I have a desire to share. I have a desire to share, but I'm receiving endlessly. So what do I have to do? I have to create a mechanism or a reality to be able to share, right? So look at the story of Adam and Eve, right? God says man should not be alone. Then Adam is giving names to all of creation, and he sees that everything has a pair but him. And so he becomes lonely. And then from that basis, he creates a vessel, or a vessel is created from him to receive endlessly. Doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound exactly like what I just described in the endless world, with a sense of shame, with a sense of lack, right? The famous Midrash says, oh, when we're in our mother's womb, we get all the knowledge from Hashem, all the knowledge from Hashem, all the knowledge from Hashem. But once we come into this world, right? A Malach comes, teaches us the Torah. Once we come into this world, from that place, we don't remember our purpose, right? And it's only through the recognition of the Torah that we're able to get back to this place where we can understand what our purpose is, right? This is it. This is the reality, right? Same thing. When our souls came in from the endless world and we were born, did we remember our purpose? Did Adam and Chava remember their purpose? Maybe if they remembered their purpose and it was so clear, they would have never ate from the Eitz Hadas, right? Because the whole purpose was to do what? Remove that sense of shame and be like the Creator. So how do we know how to be like the Creator? Through the rules. Through the rules of the Torah. Now, some people say, oh man, you start talking about rules, I feel like those are limitations, I don't know about that, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is everything has rules, right? When we put on our clothes, there's rules on wearing them correctly. I could choose not to do it, right? But that's still the mechanism. If I live in a society, in order for us to all drive this technology called automobiles or trains or light rails or whatever, there has to be a collective understanding of rules in order for that to manifest. In order for us to appreciate sporting events, right? In order for us to appreciate sporting events, those athletes have to be disciplined in the rules. This is reality. This is everything that we see, everything that we experience is based off of this mechanism. So when we have this feeling like, oh man, I don't want rules. I want to be free. I want to do. What is freedom? If you were created in the endless world and you're here in this world to do specific work, specific tasks, specific jobs. If that's why you're here in this world, what are you complaining about? Right? What is the complaining about? Like, why would you not want to follow the instruction manual that's going to bring you to the highest elevation of your purpose? You have a purpose. You have a mission. And it's a mission that no one ever came in this world to do, and no one after you will ever have this mission. You are unique and you are special. And unfortunately, we live in a society that teaches us that the entities that we struggle with make us bad people, make us not worthy, make us not important, right? We cling to that. They call it disabilities, right? They call it limitations, right? This is what it teaches us. It teaches us this exact idea. So what's the point? The point is to say that if we accept this narrative, this system that the sages give us on reality and creation, then we can maximize ourselves. So all of this is putting me in the mindset, in the position to say, you know what? The most important thing that I could share about spirituality, what I could share about my personal journey or other people's journeys, is the understanding that we are first souls, right? That we are all neshama, right? And the sages teach that the soul is not such a simple thing, like there's just a soul. No, it's this idea that the soul has different parts to it. Some of those parts connect us to other creation. Some of those parts of our soul could say you could even connect us to angels. And then another part of our soul connects us directly to the Creator itself, right? we have these different parts of our soul. And the more that we know about our soul, we can understand our behavior. And if we understand our behavior and we understand what it means to improve our behavior from the context of our soul, then we could become closer with the Creator every day, every second, every hour, right? And so that's the movement, right? This is the movement that has to happen in society. When we read the Torah, we have to be reading the Torah from the perspective of this soul that was breathed, that Hashem blew into Adam. And that soul that was blew into Adam is the beginning of life, because the sages teach that nothing grew. The trees, that there was no rain, the trees didn't blossom, the trees didn't grow, the flowers didn't blossom, the animals didn't have a definition until man came into existence. And what made man come into existence is when this soul that existed in the endless world came into this reality, right? And you could call Adam and Chava the super souls, right? Because all things come through them, right? They're the entity that all the collection of souls that will manifest, came through those vessels that disseminated from Adam, Chava, and obviously Cain and Hevel, but specifically Seth, right? This is the basis. This is the revolution of thought, because as we all came into this physical world, we came into a concealed reality. We came into a concealed reality where the soul isn't the basis, that we don't remember that we kind of deal with the creator of the universe in the beginning of creation, right? We forgot about that. So what did we do? We constructed a world, a society, and rules based off of the external self. The whole thing. Tell me what school you can go to, K through 12. Undergrad, graduate school, PhD program, specialty school, training school, trade school. Show me what education institution teaches the average person, the everyday person, the working class person, that they have a soul. And the more that they understand the needs of their soul and the connection to their soul, the more the quality of their life will improve in this world and the next world. This is what we're here for. We're here for that idea. We're here for that transformation. And so everything about society has to be rethought. Our education system, how we eat, how we treat our bodies, how we treat nature, the rules and laws that exist in a civic society, are the laws of the collective consciousness of a nation, how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to the other nations, the perception that we're separate, animal rights, everything has to be rethought from an aspect of our souls. Because if we don't do that, we're going to continue to have a society that goes to war and murders each other. We have an aspect of the whole world that is in famine, right? People aren't even able to eat. There's curable diseases that can be done overnight. But the mass majority of the people who have the wealth are not thinking about that, because the society that we've constructed only focuses us on the external self. That's it. So there's no knowledge of the soul. There's no significance to the soul. But this is how God created the world. This is what we're in. So the movement, the basis of everything that we're doing and pushing everything forward is to bring the idea that we need to recreate a new society. We need to get rid of the old ideas. Not that we're saying, oh, everything old is bad. No, we're going to build off of it. But the building off of it is connected to what's going on now with technology, right? What's going on with interconnectivity between human beings all over the world. The whole context for what I'm saying is there. Every ingredient that we need in order to spread global consciousness, that we are souls, and we need the light force of the creator, regardless of what religion you are. It doesn't matter. If you accept that the world is based on a composite of structures of energy, and that energy comes from a singular source, we don't have to put a name to it, right? And that energy is what I need because I have a soul. Now, if you understand the Torah and you connect to the Torah, everything becomes much easier to connect to this reality and to elevate. But even for the person who's not connected at all, that they can understand that the light that generates the world comes from one plug. And the more that they're in line with that system of revealment, those worlds, and how those worlds have disseminations of light, right? Like the pancakes and the syrup, that concept allows everyone to improve their quality of life. Now, obviously, the person who's inside the Torah and learns and builds off of this understanding, this for sure is a greater connection, right? The people who have the responsibility to give the Torah over, to be a light to the nations, is obviously a greater connection. But the point is, all of us have that potential. Every human being, maybe they don't express that potential in this lifetime, but at the end of the day, at the end of days, we will all be in one consciousness. We'll all see everything from one source. And so the movement going forward, I haven't developed a name for it yet because names also is in the frame of limitations, right? So we don't have to function limitations, but we could focus in the endless concept, which is that I need to restore my awareness of my soul's mission in everything that I do, in all my relationships, in all of my habits, and all of my desires. And that's how we know we have a good desire, bad desire, right? Right? Because not all information we have that comes to us is good. Some information is given to us as a test, right? Like a guy who wants to do something violent. That information is a test for him to say no, right? Unless he's defending himself or herself, right? But the point that we're going to is saying that everything has to be rethought. And we need to have these conversations. And we need to go to the sages of the Sod, the sages of the Torah, to understand how these affect us. The whole concept of why God created 7 universal laws for humanity. And he gave 613 laws to the children of Yaakov, right? Bnei Israel. He gave those laws because those systems, the general 7 laws and the laws that were given specifically on Mount Sinai to the descendants of Jacob, that those ideas were there to allow our souls to receive the very light that I'm speaking of. The very rules that we're taught to run away from and are trying to constrict us and limit our life, that exact concept comes from the light force of the Creator, right? And the light force of the Creator gave us these mechanisms to express our bechira, our free will, so we could connect to this endless light. So the whole spiritual system, whether you are of all the nations of the world that are required to keep 7 universal principles of the Torah, of God, to fulfill your soul, or you have a specific job as it relates to disseminating this information and living in the particular way that you have 613 of those laws, right? Those are all there for our souls because our soul needs connection. Our soul needs to connect and to receive light, right? All at the same time. That's beyond logic. How does that happen? Tu b'av, right? The sun, the moon, boom, closest they've ever been. This creates a tremendous light in the world. In the same way that our soul needs connection, but it also needs to give, right? That duality. So we're gonna have more conversations about this idea. This is the movement, right? The next class, we're gonna go into the aspects of the soul, right? And understanding what these different aspects of the soul represent. And so we can have a greater clarity on that. And then after that class of the soul, we're going to go into the next class, which is the building of the kalim, or the vessel of the soul, which is the body of man, which the Midrashim goes into detail and these types of things. And then from there, we're going to go into the construction of nature and these relationships and the whole thing. But the point is saying we're re-understanding life, we're re-understanding society. And you have to understand that your soul that you have in you that gives life, if anyone has known anyone who's passed away, what's the difference between a person being alive and dead is the soul not being there, right? The soul going to a new expanded reality. People, in essence, the true person never dies, right? Only the body withers away. But the true person lives forever and ever and ever and will continue to live. They may not be in this reality anymore, right? I'm from Los Angeles. I haven't been to LA in forever, right? So there's people there that I have not seen for years. No contact, no communication, no visual. But I'm living in another part. I'm living in the Holy Land of Israel. I'm living in Jerusalem, right? So that dynamic of understanding self, that dynamic of understanding, who we are as individuals could allow us to understand that just because I'm no longer in Los Angeles does not mean I'm dead. God forbid. It means that I'm alive somewhere else. And what is the basis of my living? My soul. So when we think about ideas and we think about educating our youth and we think about retaking back our true identity isn't being white, isn't being black, isn't being, Hispanic, isn't being American, isn't being Chinese, isn't being Australia or any of these other terms. These are words and concepts that were created by people who conquered other people. These terms are created through the frame or sustained. Right, you could say maybe it wasn't, maybe, it was a group of people had an idea somewhere in the world and they called it somewhere. But these ideas are sustained through separation. You're over there and I'm over here. I'm this person, you're that person. Is there differences amongst us? 100%. Are we all created in the image of God? 100%. Are we all unique at the same time? 100%. But until we talk about the level of the soul, all of it is just rhetoric. And it's all based around a system of separation. It's around systems that are put into place through the conquering of others, or the murder of others. It's sustained through the perception of I'm different than you are. And you, in some cases, even dehumanizing, denying the fact that we're made in Tselem Elohim, right? Denying that point is how many societies deal with each other, right? How different groups deal with each other. And so getting past that is the idea that politics and laws are going to rectify me, are going to protect me. No, my consciousness protects me. So this is the restructuring of society that I'm speaking about. This is the need for a new world that I'm speaking about, because our souls can collectively create a conscious unity where we can bring the ultimate soul, which is the seventh entity that was created before the world was created, which is the Mashiach. It comes through our collective consciousness. When we all see that we're one, when we all see that we're from the same source, and that everything that we have is just external garments that are not the real us. It's just a fragment of us. And we can live in many different lifetimes that have different garments. God may put us into this lifetime, take us out of this lifetime, reinsert us back into this reality 1,000 years from now. And we may have a completely different set of garments. We could have lived 500, 600, 1,000 years before, 2,000 years before, wearing different garments. But it's the same soul. And many times the same interactions with people that we knew in past incarnations. So anyway, so let's just keep pushing forward, but this is the movement. The movement is inside out. I'm not giving it a name. I'm not giving names. Names are limitation, but it's an inside out philosophy, meaning the internal me, who I am, the essence of who I am, is the basis of how I define myself, is the basis of how I interact with nature, with my body, with all of humanity, is the basis of how I talk to the creator of the universe. I don't just pray for my soul. If my soul is connected to all the other souls, I have to pray for them too. Because it's like this idea of like, say a person was taught in school that only the left side of their body was holy, right? Only the left side of their body was holy. So what do? They took care of the left side. They washed their left leg, the left side of their body, the left arm, the left side of their face, everything, but the other side of their body, they never knew anything about. Eventually, that other side of the body that's not clean, that's not nurtured, that's not even looked at, it's going to start to corrode. It's going to start to get sick. And that sickness is going to spread to the left side of the body because it's one body. This is the same thing with our soul. If we don't focus on the nourishment of our soul, then we're going to continue to decay. And that's why a lot of people, I grew up in the suburbs, the super suburbs, right? Los Angeles, California, Calabasas, West Hills, right? We had the second highest drug rate in the state of California. Beverly Hills High, when I was in high school, Beverly Hills High, #1. And then you have in inner city schools where kids were killing each other over drug territory. So where's this fulfillment? Where is this happy place? Where is this connection? Where is it? Is it in the rich neighborhoods or is it in the poor neighborhoods? Is it in the middle class? Where's it at? It doesn't seem to exist anywhere. Maybe individuals have connected to their own transformation and their own growth, but it hasn't manifested. So what we're dealing with now is a world that is living in darkness. We don't even understand the soul. When you think about a kid in a community that will kill another kid for a pair of tennis shoes, and it's not like he doesn't have tennis shoes. It's not like he can't figure out a way to make money to save up and get tennis shoes. No, he wants it now. And he's willing to take someone else's life. It's only because that kid has no understanding that he has a soul. And that soul, that person that he's harming is a soul that's connected to him. So the death that he's created is the death that he also experiences. And not only him, his entire community. And not only his community, the whole world. So that's the transformational thought that we hear. So we're going to keep building on this idea, and we're going to spread this idea, and we're going to do it. I have a documentary coming out called from the city of Los Angeles, which is a play on Los Angeles, to the city of God, where I'm at in Jerusalem. But the whole basis of that documentary is going to be the intellectual transformation that I went through to be able to look at people today and say, you know what, that's a soul there. And that person has a specific correction in his life, and they have specific needs in his life, and it's totally different than mine. We may agree, we may connect, but that's not who I am. And that's not who they are. Or it's not the limitation of who they are. It's not where we connect. There's much more to them. And you learn that a lot in marriage, right? So may we continue on. My blessing to everybody and to Bob is that we come to this recognition on this holy day, on the 15th of Av, that we are all important. And we don't need a title. We don't need a degree. We don't need a status. We don't need a particular neighborhood or particular associations. We are special. God loves us, and we're all connected. And we have a mission. And our mission is to reveal that uniqueness to humanity, to elevate and to unify humanity. And through that unification and elevation, we'll bring the ultimate super soul into this reality, which is the Mashiach.